just too hot. That's the title, arithmetic sequence. I need a drink. Mm-mm.
It's him.
Gage? Gage, you're Mr. Pickens' favorite? I couldn't pick a favorite in this class if I wanted to. I like too many of you. I like too many of you. I could pick like my not so favorite. I'm not so favorite. You're number one somewhere. Okay. Oh, a sequence. Let's talk about what a sequence is. Is a set of numbers called terms. Underline the word terms. It's a definition and a definition. In a specific order. So a sequence is just a bunch of numbers separated by commas. Each one of those numbers is called a term. So the first number would be the first term, the second number would be the second term. But they have a specific order to them. So they're not just thrown there. They are specifically there for a reason. That's just any sequence. Now, an arithmetic sequence. Obviously has the word sequence in it, so all that part applies. So an arithmetic sequence is a pattern shown by using addition or subtraction. Last vocabulary. Last one. That was really crooked. Common difference. A common difference, we represent it with the lowercase letter d. That's the first part. What it does is it shows how the arithmetic sequence changes. Period. What I mean by this is to find d, you're going to say d equals your second term minus your first term. So if you can't figure it out by looking at it, you always take the second number minus the first number. And it'll tell you what the answer is. If it's a negative, you write minus 4 or negative 6 or whatever it is. If it's a positive number, you just write d equals whatever it is. So there are 3 parts to your homework. And also make sure you pay attention that on your homework in the back, it does say no graphs. So there's a part in it that says graph them. Don't do it, okay? Just do the other parts. All right, I've done this to you before. Now, first part of your homework is going to say determine if each sequence is an arithmetic sequence. I am abbreviating so I can fit it. It's a little crooked. So determine if each sequence is an arithmetic sequence. They're all sequences, but we need to know if they're the right kind we're doing. And I'll show you how. So number 1, -4, comma, -2, comma, 0, comma, 2, comma, dot, dot, dot. That means it goes on. We're just not writing them all down. So write that down first. And then I'll show you how to do it. So this is how you determine if it's an arithmetic sequence or not. You want to ask yourself, how do you get from the first number to the second number? If you can't look at it and figure it out, you find the common difference. That's what we're doing. Take the second number, subtract the first number. So you literally type that into your calculator. All right, so I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to type in -2 minus -4. If I can't do that in my head. What's the answer? 2. So I'm going to write 2 underneath it. And it's a positive 2, right? So really, we're adding 2. I'm going to write +2 because that means it's positive. Now we have to do the same thing for every single one. 0 minus -2. You want to see if that is also the same answer. Sometimes they'll throw you off, randomly be wrong. So 0 minus -2. Does that also give you +2? Yep. +2. This one you should be able to see. If I go from 0 to 2, do I add 2? Yeah. You see how every single one of those numbers is the same. If all of these are the same, I can say, hey, D equals 2. So yes, it's arithmetic. I can just write yes. No reason to write arithmetic over and over and over again. That's just silly. So it's going to ask you to show your work. This is showing your work, or explaining. This is all of that. Okay, I'm going to show you one just like it. Maybe it doesn't work. Okay. Number 2. 1, comma, 4, comma, 9, comma, 25. Then dot, dot, dot. With a negative, sometimes it's hard to see. With the positives, you might be able to figure it out with having to work backwards. So you write it down, and if you can do it in your head, how do you get from 1 to 4? What are you going to add or subtract? Add 3. So I'm going to write +3. Again, if you can't figure it out in your head, do the second one minus the first one. And then write the answer underneath. Now look at the second 2 groups, 9 and 4. So how do I go from 4 to 9? +5. What do you notice about those 2 right there? They're different numbers, aren't they? Over here, I had all the same number, didn't I? So could this be an arithmetic sequence if the numbers are different? No. So as soon as you see something that's wrong, maybe check your math, right? You can automatically just write no for not a sequence, not an arithmetic sequence. This isn't a sequence, just not an arithmetic one. So as soon as you see something that tells you no, you can just write no and you can stop. And you have no answer for D unless it is yes. Does that make sense? And we're going to keep finding the answer for D no matter over and over again. So this will never go away. Okay, next. Now your instructions. So that's the first 4 problems in your homework. Next chunk of your homework is going to say, find the next 3 terms in each arithmetic, I'm going to abbreviate it, sequence. Ooh, wake up. Okay? So that's the instruction. So it says we want to find the next three numbers after the list they gave us. And it says in each arithmetic sequence. That means it's already telling us that all the answers are yes. It already works. We don't have to check them. So I'm going to give you a sequence. Let's do this one. 15, comma, 9, comma, 3, comma, -3. They always give you four numbers, comma, and then dot, dot, dot. So this is what they gave us. It says find the next three terms. So we're going to have to find, I always do this. I always go blank, comma, blank, comma, blank. So we're going to find the next three numbers right after that one. Now, to do these problems, every single time you should figure out what D equals. So again, you only have to do it once. How did you get from 15 to 9? Jacoby. Yes, you're subtracting 6. Do you see that? Can you see that with your eyes? If not, how do you find that out? If you can't see that right away, what math do we do again to figure out what D is? Yep, 9 minus 15. Always take the second number minus the first number. I'll give that. So now that we know what D is, right? So every single one of these, it's minus 6, every time we go from one to another. So now we need to find this one. So we're going to start at the last number, and you're going to minus 6. So what is -3 minus 6? Somebody other than Jacoby. Morgan. -9. So all we do is take the last number minus 6 to the next one. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we already know this answer is minus 6. So you're going to take -9 minus 6. What is -9 minus 6? -15. Thank you, Austin. Then one more time. -15 minus 6. -21. See, you didn't even need a calculator. You really only need a calculator if you're good at math in your head at the end, because that one, I even use a calculator. For some of it's just too much. Does that function well in your brain? Does that make sense to you? Okay, let's do another one then. Number 2. How about this one? Looks a little funky. 9.5, comma, 11.0, comma, 12.5, comma, 14.0, comma, dot, dot, dot. They always give us four numbers. I'm going to now move this. So, what form are these numbers in? Decimals. Since they start in decimals, do you think you can write your answers as decimals? Yes. Gage is like, yeah, sure, Miss Rinaldi. Right? So, you still have to write what D is. It should be in decimal form. Your next three numbers should also be in decimal form. You see how this number right here, 11.0, technically isn't that a whole number? But you see how they put the 0 at the end, so they all have the same decimal place? You should also do the same thing. So try this one out on your own. See if you can figure out what D is. It is a decimal. And then the next three. Easy. See, not so bad. The hard ones are fractions, honestly, because if you can't do fractions well in your mind, you need the calculator. I'll give you one. I'll give you a fraction one next, just to mix it up. Oh. Don't mind me whistling back here. Did you find the next three? Gracie, what does D equal? Yep, that's correct. Did you get the same answer there, Chad? 1.5. So then, Chad, can you tell me the next three numbers? Well, add 1.5 and I'll tell you if you're right, one at a time. You're supposed to add. It's positive, so try now. 14.0. So now add 1.5 to 14.0. What did you get? So I'm going to write 15.5. Now we're going to add 1.5 again. Ethan, what do I get? Oh, not just 17. 17.0. I'm going to keep it even. And the last answer there, Josiah? 18.5. Did we get the same answers? Okay, let's throw some fractions at you just for practice. Might as well, right? He skips lines, yeah. Okay, 1/2, comma. Wait, he's wrote nothing. 5/8, comma. 3/4, comma. I don't actually know this answer. And then 7/8, comma, dot, dot, dot. That is your sequence. It works. We just need to figure out what D is. So now we're going to actually have to use a calculator. It's okay. I'll tell him what it is. See if maybe he can figure it out. Yeah. Austin doesn't like the fractions. How do you use fractions again in the calculator? Remember, second one minus the first one. What do we always put around our fractions? Parentheses. Yeah, just to make sure we're doing it right. So type it in, and then we'll see if we get that part right before we move on. Remember, since this is all fractions, you should even write D in fraction form. Does anyone have an answer for D when we see if we're right before we move on? Katie, what's your answer? 1/8. 1/8. Did we all get 1/8? You are correct. Since it's positive, Chad, since it's positive, what are we going to do every time we make a new number? Are we going to add or subtract if it's positive? We're going to add it. So make the next three. When I make these comma lines, I use them as my fraction bar lines. Makes it easier. So from 7/8, add 1/8. With fractions, Austin, you just add the top number. 7 plus 1 is what? What's 8 divided by 8? Anything divided by itself is. Then do it again, or leave it as 8/8 and then add 1 to the top. Add 1 to the top. Oh, Miss Matthew, he's my only one who likes to do this in the fraction way. He hasn't been here. He's on quarantine. Yep. Do we already got it done? We just that good? I think Jacoby's shaking his head at me. The first number in the sequence. Anyone have the first number in the sequence? Crystal? 7/8 plus 1/8. You just type it in. Huh? 1. 7/8 plus 1/8 is 1. You can't put whole numbers in for fractions. That's okay. Now do 1 plus 1/8. What's the second number? No mixed fractions, please. Katie. No mixed fractions, please. Josiah. 9/8. 9/8. Yes, but since they're both even, can it be simplified? Yeah, look at you. The next one, add 1/8. That one can be simplified. Remember, it should be an improper fraction. Austin told me the answer. Did you get this answer? Simplify 5/4. It is really 10/8, but since they're both even, they can be reduced. See? Doubted yourself. You could do it all along. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? In every form. I've given you whole numbers, I've given you decimals, I gave you fractions, so now you have examples for each. I took my calculator, though mine is scarier than yours, but don't pay attention to that. Just look at the screen, right? I took the second one. I turned her on, right? Okay. 5/8. I just do the division sign. Minus, and then do the other fraction. 1/8, 1/2. Subtracted them. I got a decimal, so then I had to turn it into a fraction. Yours is different than mine, so I'm not going to show you so you don't get confused. And then it says 1/8 right there. So if you can't see it, always take the second number minus the first number. Every single time. If it's positive, you're going to add I would always put plus 1/8, so you remember that, so we don't make silly little mistakes. And if it's negative, you write minus 1/8. See, yes. Second PRB gives you the fraction. Second ABC gives you the correct answer. I don't have one of those, or I'd show it to you. My calculator is easy. I just push math and say push fraction, and it turns into a fraction the way I want it. Okay, now let's zoom back out. Okay, now that's the second part. The third part is this. Now, that is all nice and dandy if I say just find the next 3 terms. But if I said, could you tell me like the 100th term? Could you imagine? Plus an 8 plus an 8. That would take too long, and who would actually do it? No one, right? I wouldn't even do it. Jacoby, maybe. No, so Jacoby's even saying no. Chad said definitely not, right? So there's an equation to help us so we don't have to find every number in between. That's what the equation's for. I'm going to give it to you, tell you what everything means, and then we're going to practice it. So this is the nth. You know how you write first with the TH in the small little top? Yep, nth term equation. Yeah, so 9th, 10th, 100th. N represents the thing we're looking for. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. This is the equation. I'll tell you what it all means in just a second. Ready? A sub n, so little n on the bottom right. You know how we did y sub 2 to do the points? It's the same thing. Equals a sub 1 plus parentheses. Oh, here's Miss Weed. N minus 1, close your parentheses, times D. You always come in just the right time. You just got that magical power, don't you? Years of practice. So, out of all those weird letters, one of them look familiar? D. What does D stand for again? The difference, the common difference. I heard someone say it. As a reminder, it is the second term minus the first term. Hard part's coming up. Now, N, Ethan just figured it out before I even said anything. N is the term we're looking for. Right? If I said, I want the 100th term, we wouldn't do 100 spots and figure it out. We would just use N is 100. Good thing is, right now, we don't really need it. Okay? A sub 1 is the first term in the sequence. So the last sequence we just had, what was the first number in the sequence? First number you saw. It was a fraction. 1/2. That would be A sub 1. Whatever's in the front, A sub 1's the first thing you see. First term, second term, third term. Okay? And then A sub n is the answer for the nth term. AKA what we will solve for if we ever had to. Now this is how this works. The instructions are going to say, just make sure that's awake. Write an equation for the nth term. So we're just going to write an equation based on whatever sequence they give us. And I will always give you that formula. I may not always tell you what the letters mean. You'll have to remember what the letters mean. So if they give you this sequence, give you a nice one. How about this guy? -10, comma, -23, comma, -36, comma, dot, dot, dot. So that's our sequence. It says we want to write an equation. So we want to plug all the numbers in we can. Nth term means we leave anything that has n in it, which would be that guy and that guy. We're going to leave them alone. We need to have numbers for those. Well, looking at this, can we say what A sub 1 is? There's no math involved. You just have to use your eyeballs. Looking at that sequence, can you tell me what the first term in the sequence is? -10. It's just whatever's in front. Then we also have to figure out what D is. And we've been doing this the entire time. How do we figure out what D is if we can't do the math? Jacoby. Yeah, we do -23 minus -10. So -23 minus and then -10. Make sure you plug in all those numbers correctly. What do you get, Chad? -13. And that negative sign, when we use it, really means negative sign, right? Okay. This is all you ever look for. Now we're going to take those two numbers and we're going to plug it into that equation where they belong. So anything with an n keeps an n. So A sub n stays. Equals A sub 1. Do we have a number for that? Yep, -10. Plus parentheses. The n stay. N minus 1, close my parentheses because 1's already there. And then it says times, and I'm going to always put whatever, when I plug my number in for D, I'll always put in parentheses. What's going to go in for D? Negative 13. So this is an equation, but it's got a lot of parentheses and stuff in it. So is it a simplified equation? No, we want to simplify it. That's all we need to do. This has a parentheses. It looks backwards, but this negative 13 is being multiplied by everything in here. So what do we do to multiply this by everything in here? Distribute it. We're going to take negative 13 times n, negative 13 times negative 1, because it says multiplication times that set of parentheses. Yeah, nope, that says plus. There's a plus sign right there. So you bring down the negative 10, then you keep your plus sign for now. Negative 13 times n is negative 13n. Negative 13 times negative 1 is plus 13. And it still says equals a sub n. So now we have no parentheses, but can this be simplified? Do we have any like terms all over here on the same side? Chad shaking his head, yes. What are our like terms, Gracie? Negative 10, 13. Since negative and 10 and 13 are on the same side of the equal sign, what do? You do exactly what they say. You do not do anything opposite. You literally take negative 10 plus 13 left to right. So you just take negative 10 plus 13. You just add that in your calculator. I'm going to write over here because I got no room. A sub n equals, what is negative 10 plus 13? 3. Did I do anything with a negative 13n? It's got nothing in common, so what should I do with it? I should just bring it down, right? Well, for me, it's bring it over because I have no room. So I'm going to write negative 13n. Since 3 was positive, I put a plus sign. Why did I put the negative 13n in front of the 3? Chad's like, because she can. Well, you are not adding 33, so you have to write that. When you write a final answer, your thing with the variable should always come before your thing without the variable. Just like your bell ringer, you know how your bell ringer, the thing with the X came before the 9? The thing with the variable should always be in front. And then that would be our final answer. It says write the equation. Hey, you wrote the equation, you were done. Okay, you have all these notes. We're gonna try that again. It still says we're still writing the equation for the nth term. Here's your sequence. How about 1, comma, 10, comma, 19, comma, 28, dot, dot, dot. Every single time you do this, you always say what a sub 1 equals and what d equals. Those are the only two numbers you ever find. A sub 1, I can look at it and say what the answer is. Chad? That's what. D, we have to do some math to figure out what D is. Either go, how do I get from 1 to 10, or do the subtraction, the second number minus the first number. Bella, do you know what D is? It's 9. It's positive 9. Now, do we have everything we need to plug it into the equation? Okay, so you look back at the equation. Anything has n's in it, leave it alone. So a sub n equals, then I'm going to write 1 plus parentheses n minus 1, close my parentheses, times 9. Don't forget that plus sign after the a sub 1. A lot of people mess that up. Then we distribute the wrong number, right? Bella even admitted to it a little bit ago. Now distribute and combine your like terms. Try it out and see what you get. What is your final equation answer? Don't tell me all the steps. Final answer. Bella? You put these together. These are two separate things. 9 times n and 9 times negative 1. It should be 9 times n, which is 9n, 9 times negative 1, which is negative 9. And then you still have plus 1 here. You're just not done. That's just not your last step. Your final step is you always look and go, okay, the 9n has nothing with it. Jacoby, right, tell me your answer. Yes. Because the 9n has nothing, so you bring it down, and then the 1 and the negative 9, you add them together. You distributed it, you didn't give me the final answer. 9n minus 9. Yes. What? I'm not done. Now, the other part of these questions is, once you have an equation, it's going to say, find and I'll pick a number, 75th term. So now you actually have to do some math. Calculator is very much needed in this point. So it says find the 75th term. This goes with the last problem. What do you think 75 represents in all the letters in the equation? Find the 75th term. There are only two we didn't use, n and a sub n. It's n. Whatever term you're looking for, that means n equals 75. So we have this equation, and we say, hey, n equals 75. What are we going to do with that information? Plug it in. We're just going to substitute in 75 for n. So it's going to look like this. A sub n, because we don't know what the answer is yet, 9 times 75 minus 8. We all have fingers. We can all type it in, right? Shouldn't have to do this in your head. And you know how we replaced n with 75 here? Isn't there technically an n on that little a sub right there? You should technically replace that n with 75 too. So a sub 75 is a little guy. Equals, so the answer for 75, that's basically what that says. And then you just type her in. And I'm typing her in right now because I don't know the answer either. Oh man, that's a triple digit number. So I write equals, and then Jaden's gonna tell me the answer. That's why I picked you, because you were just staring. It is 3 digits. Okay, it's all positive. It's almost a bad number. 1 off. So you literally just type 9 times 75 minus 8 all at once in the calculator. And you get? Thanks. 6, 6, 7. Did we all get the same answer? Yes. Okay. So that's not so bad, right? Anytime, sometimes they will mix them together in the instructions. They'll say, write the equation for this, then find that. So you have to write the equation first because it's like a 2-part answer. They'll ask you, it's like on your quiz where they say, will you write the equation, then will you graph it? Both of them are worth your points, so make sure you do both, okay? Now I'm going to stop the video, and then we are going to do practice problems. Once I can see where my cursor is. Jacoby. Oh, there he is. Sometimes your head's